Welcome to another episode of the Adrienne Ross Show, where sports and culture connect. Before I get into the topic of this video, I have to say I do have that message up at the bottom of this video once again, and I appreciate your patience. It's annoying. I know the video I put up, I want to say last night, but it was more like 4 o'clock this morning. It had a message also, and it was closer, actually around my chin area. And I know it's annoying. Believe me, if you're annoyed, I'm annoyed. But I appreciate you understanding that when someone's stealing your work, you have to take steps. And I put it up here, and I will do it intermittently in this video as well, because down here where it is, it can just be cut off, chopped off, and then the thieves can continue to do what they're doing. So I gotta do it, and that might not even be high enough. Right now, it might have worked because they didn't put up my video, and they put up my videos, all of them. That one is not up, so maybe that did it. If not, I'll go even higher. But hang with me through the inconvenience of the whole thing. All right, moving on into the topic of this video. Indiana Fever, Atlanta Dream. As I mentioned, I put out a video already giving my observations of the game and also breaking down the last play of the game. 91 Atlanta, 90 Indiana. Caitlin Clark went to the press conference. She was asked a particular question, and upon being asked, she talked about the officiating. Now, I imagine, I don't know, because I haven't been on the cesspool known as X, but I imagine that people who saw that part of the press conference will say, oh, Caitlin's whining. Oh, Caitlin's complaining. Well, a question was asked, and Caitlin answered the question. She did not bring up the officiating until she was asked a specific question. And I got to tell you, there are times, you all know, if you hang out with me during the games and the live stream, you know, I'll say, Caitlin, don't talk to the officials. Just get back in the play. In this situation, the officials needed talking to. Stephanie White was talking to him. And this post-game press conference, Caitlin Clark is justified in what she said. She was also rather professional, as she usually is. But this would have been a time where you could have not been so professional because the officiating was so bad. But she handled it well. She was extremely thorough. So we're going to get to that and get to her comments, because I do believe, I'm not saying the Indiana Fever played great basketball. I already did a video about that. There's a lot to work on. But I am saying that the officials' hands were all over this game. And I believe that they are partly responsible for how this thing turned out. I'm not one to complain a lot about officials when it's not warranted. It's warranted. So let's go to the Indiana Fever's YouTube page and see what Caitlin was asked and then what she answered.
And that's a positive.
Just the first half seemed pretty choppy with, the amount of fouls, the challenges. Just how did that affect you as the point guard and just the team's pace as a whole?
Yeah, I mean, to me, challenges cannot take that long. It ruins the flow of the game. I get it. It's early in the year. The refs want to make the right call. We can't sit there for 2.5, 3 minutes and on an obvious hit out of bounds off of them and still not know the call. I get it. There's things to look at. There's the clock. There's is the ball going to be taken out. But that's not the only reason the flow of the game was ruined. But we're just standing there. We're waiting and we're waiting and we're waiting. And then obviously, like I said, a lot of free throws shot between both teams tonight. That makes the game more choppy when there's a lot of fouls. Excuse me. But, it's tough when Coach White is put in a position to have to use both her challenges in the first half on calls that were pretty point blank. And then we're left with none there in the second half, which, you can pick and choose. Maybe you save them, maybe you don't. But still, every single possession matters. But like I said, it doesn't come down to that. No matter what, if it's a choppy game, we got to find a way to find our flow a little bit better, especially to start the game and start the second half for sure.
Caitlin covered a lot of ground there. First of all, I want to remind you of a video that I did many months ago at the end or right after I think the 2024 season ended, when I said that there needs to be some kind of task force, if you want to call it that, of people who take a look at these officials, find out which ones are not up to snuff, and they have to go. These officials last night were not up to snuff. Caitlin Clark used the perfect example. Coach Stephanie had to use both her challenges and won those challenges. The Atlanta Dream coach had to use a challenge. One, I was thinking these officials are so bad. They already lost 2 challenges all in 1 quarter with Stephanie White's challenges. I'm like, they probably going to pretend that the challenge from the other coach wasn't successful, because how embarrassing would it be if they got all 3 wrong? But they got all 3 wrong, and the challenges were successful. Now, after the second one, like I said in the video last night, at that point, you got to have like 3 officials in the back, and it's like, okay, you're not ready. So can you guys can go home, and we'll bring in the new people. I know they're human. I know there's human error, but Caitlin Clark is telling the truth when she says some of it is just obvious, point blank. We're all in the chat. We're watching where the ball goes out of bounds. It's obvious. Why is it taking you like 3 minutes or whatever to know what everybody can see? What is going on? Now, we know that these challenges always take forever. In fact, you guys might remember in the offseason, early in the offseason, I was doing this funny comedic stuff where it was the 2024 unconventional WNBA awards, whatever. And one of them, I was talking about the officials challenging calls, and I had the sound effects and people sleeping, and that was the whole thing. And it was funny then, right? Because it was something that's true. It was just true. They take too long. Caitlin is right. See, basketball, sports in general, I know basketball, it's a game of rhythm. It's a game of flow. There's a reason why coaches will call timeouts when the other team gets hot. Sure, you might want to draw something up. Sometimes it's just to break the flow, the momentum. Sometimes if someone has to make a free throw, it's a big free throw, you call a timeout, you want to ice the person. In this case, it wasn't the other team icing the Indiana Fever. It was the officials icing both teams, really, but it affected Indiana more. When you take all that time to do your job, like nobody gets to do that in life. You don't have forever in a job that's like live to look over and over and over and over and getting it wrong. These calls were costly. There was another time Stephanie White later in the game when it was really important could have used another challenge, but like Caitlin said, she had to use stuff early in the game on stuff that was point blank obvious. She then went on to say, because Caitlin is the consummate professional, she went on to say, listen, I can't blame the whole game on that. But you can't just be sitting around and standing around all that time while they wait on something that's so obvious. Great. You want to get it right. Okay, well then maybe you're just not ready yet for prime time. Like I said, there's human error involved, but it was costly. Even Debbie Antonelli, who was a part of the pair calling the game, at one point the officials, it was a jump ball. The ball was tied up. It was jump ball, and all of a sudden it was a foul. And she was like, how did you go from a jump ball to a foul to shooting 2 shots? So not only were these officials taking forever in reviewing stuff that they jacked up, but they were getting calls wrong and costly calls. The end of the game, and I'm going to do a separate video on that, although I know I touched on it in the last video, but the end of the game, the Indiana Fever, Aaliyah Boston was held, and Debbie Antonelli pointed that out too. No call there. The officials missed it at key points. The Dream shot more free throws than the Indiana Fever, both free throw shot. That also, this is what Caitlin's dad was saying when Hall of Famer Holly Rowe put the mic in front of him and asked him about, well, what did you learn that your daughter can use in the next season? And he was like, the officiating has to be better, has to be more fluid. I don't have a problem calling right calls. I have a problem. Sometimes there's a huge discrepancy and you got to kind of wonder why, but you're messing it up. then we got to pay for your mess up. We got to stand around and wait. It breaks the momentum. Basketball is a game of momentum. It's a game of runs. And it's when we're talking about the officiating after a game, there's a problem. And like Caitlin said, it can't happen. And for her to say that, it means something, because sometimes if you say anything bad about the officials, they fine you. I don't know what they're going to decide to do. She did it so classy, took it back to, hey, we got to play better. But she rightfully, I'm glad she did it. You've got to call this out. It was that egregious. And those of you who have access to watch the game, again, watch the game again. It's odd. I know they're supposed to be fair. It didn't seem fair, which is extra weird because you're on your own home court. It was so bad. It really was. And the points Caitlin made were excellent points. Something better has to be done. Listen, if you have not subscribed to the channel, please do so. Much, much appreciated. And thank you for those of you who are rocking with the Adrienne Ross Show. I will catch you next time, God willing. God bless you abundantly.